Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton, joined by the fantasy master Lothario himself, Gray Albright. How's it going over there, Gray?
Good, man. I was just coming in to my office to talk to you, and I think is my hammy or I was watching an exercise video produced by Anthony Rendon, right? and he was like, because he does these exercise videos whereby like 10 minutes in, everyone's injured. I don't know if you've seen these. He's like in a room, like imagine like Jane Fonda or Richard Simmons, and they're in a room working out, and then like 10 minutes in, everyone's like limping and they're sitting on the bench, not able to work out anymore. Have you seen these videos? They're really cool. I was working out with it's called Working Out with Andy Rendon. It's his title. I didn't come up. Obviously, I could have came up with a better title, but Working Out with Andy Rendon. And he's like in the front of the room, and everyone like just follows along with his workout, and like 10 minutes in, everyone's injured. It's cool. It's really cool. You should check it out. It's fun. But anyway, my hammy hurts.
Is there an equivalent in the real world to what Anthony Rendon is doing? Like outside of baseball, like is there an equivalent to like this? Getting just this massive contract and then just not doing anything. Like, I can't even come up with like a ridiculous comparison. It's just, I think
it's everyone who's listening. I think it's everyone's boss, basically. I think that's how people would consider it. If you're not self-employed. If you're self-employed, the boss is great. You're the best boss ever. But if you have to work for the man, everyone works for an Anthony Rendon.
It's that person who's really good at delegating every single thing that can be possibly construed as work that they're supposed to do. That person.
Exactly. I mean, seriously though, like how bad is that contract? It's so bad, man. I mean, the Chris Bryant contract is pretty terrible, right? I mean, it is bad. But the Anthony Rendon one, I mean, we're in like, what is this, year 5 of it just being awful. It's just awful. I mean, just like every year, he's going to be injured. Like you just know it. And he's doing it, like probably on purpose because he doesn't want to play baseball. I mean, he literally does not like the sport. So yeah, not great. Not a great contract. Where with Chris Bryant, I feel like it's a little bit more like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like he wants to play. It's just like his body's giving out on him. But yeah, Anthony Rendon, I don't think wants to play. Like I could see at the end of both of their careers, Chris Bryant actually becoming like a sportscaster on like Fox or something. Like I could see him being a color man with or in like the playoffs, like with the A-Rod, David Ortiz, Chris Bryant. I could see Chris Bryant actually going into that role. With Andy Rendon, I feel like he's not even going to know who's playing baseball. Like he's going to be like, as soon as he's done with his career, he's going to be like, who's Ronald Acuna Jr.? I've never heard of him.
I think he's already kind of like that, Gray. I mean, he's probably like sitting on the bench like, who's this Nolan Channel? Like, who's this guy? Who's this Neto? Who is Neto? Why is he on the lineup card? I don't think I know this guy.
He's like, hey, I'm Anthony, and your name again? Mike Trout. Okay, cool, man.
We've met a few times before.
Yeah, I think we've actually met before. Really? Well, it's good to meet you again. Any case.
Are you somebody's like friend of a friend? I think I think I remember now. At that one party. All right, great.
Yeah.
Let's move on from the sad Anthony Rendon situation. I agree. Chris Bryant has the looks and the social ability to transition into something. Maybe he can take over on WGN if he can't get a job on network television, because Cubs fans will always love him. That's not going away. If we get him and Rizzo as our next broadcast team for the Cubs, that would be awesome. I would be in for that. But moving on, call-ups. Let's talk about a few of the names for this week. Andy Pages was called up by the Dodgers. 15 games in AAA this year. He had 5 home runs, 2 stolen bases, 16 runs, 15 RBIs. He was hitting 371, 452, 694, and he's pretty much played every day since he was called up for Jason Hayward, who is dealing with back soreness. I mean, where are you picking him up? Is this a straight across the board? You pretty much have to grab him. And how long? I mean, do you think he could potentially stay up even once Hayward's back?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I think taking the obvious, Hayward, I don't know if he obviously his best years are behind him. Actually, everyone who is associated with the Cubs World Series, their careers are behind them. I don't know whose soul they sold, but everyone is Javi Baez left the Cubs and just became the worst player of all time. Anyway, Hayward's best years are behind him, obviously, but I don't know if I would say he's gonna be just completely benched when he returns. He doesn't feel like a guy who's just not gonna play ever, right? Maybe platoon, maybe not, maybe he's with he's a platoon in with Outman or even they also have Kike, right? So there's a bunch of guys, and Chris Taylor. So there's a bunch of guys the Dodgers have potentially to platoon with Pages or to just replace him completely if he bottoms out. So his his room for failing is he's got a very small window. He's definitely he can succeed. Don't get me wrong. But whether or not he actually stays in the lineup and continues to play for the rest of the season, he could, and that could happen. But so I guess what I'm saying is I wouldn't drop anyone in shallower leagues. I wouldn't necessarily drop the questions are starting to come in with should I drop Nolan Jones or Castellanos or Jordan Walker? There's guys now who have reached the comments where they're finished with certain guys. Guys are want to start moving on with certain players. So, it's those guys, it depends on the league, obviously. So I would pick up Pages in all leagues. He has good power and speed. He looks like he's ready to go. He has, solid contact in AAA. He hasn't shown that quite yet in the majors, but it's small sample. He's only played 5 games as of the recording of this. So, he has a good bat. I like him a lot. I grabbed him in a 12-team mixed league. So I think he's worth grabbing in every shallow league. The guys you're dropping for him, I would be hesitant about dropping anyone too valuable because, like I said originally, there isn't a lot of room for him to fail because the Dodgers are, they're anticipating going deep into the playoffs to the World Series. So they're not looking to just carry a rookie and see what happens. This isn't like the Nationals where you could just throw a guy out there just to see what happens. The Dodgers want to win. So if Pages falls into a platoon or even, if he struggles at all, he could get benched or sent down again. So his job isn't secure. With that said, I like him a lot. There is basically in the, in Fab this weekend, 15 team, especially 15 team, he went for a lot. People were definitely bidding up on him. He went for upwards to anywhere from like 75 plus. This is out of 1,000. So anywhere from like $75 to over $200, I saw him go for in my leagues. So people were definitely in on him, which makes sense. I mean, he is, he does seem like he could be, potentially like rookie of the year type guy. Like he could take off and be the top, one of the top rookies this year. That's totally possible. And then in a 12 team mixed league, I think he went for $9 in my league out of 100. So that's still a lot. I mean, that's like the equivalent to like $90 in 1,000 fab. So yeah, I mean, I agree with those prices more or less. Like I think I bid around 50 in the 1,000, and then I didn't really need them in the $100 fab, but I probably would have went to like $5 if I need them. So I like them. I'm just saying, keep expectations in check for now, because like we just don't know how long he's going to have that everyday job. Right now he has it, and he should keep it as long as he hits. But as we see with like, Jackson Holiday, guys don't always come up and hit. So, we'll see.
Yeah. And I mean, there's definitely room for him. It's not like you need to keep Chris Taylor's 051 or Gavin Lux's sub 150 or Enrique Hernandez's, 200 average. So there's room for him to find some playing time, but it just depends on how he, like you said, if he hits here and can find his way to continue playing. The Dodgers like guys like Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez, so, and even like Jason Hayward. So we'll see if he can maintain his spot. But yes, while he's up, I agree. You definitely grab him in any league. But he is hitting 8th, and he has potentially limited time up. So just keep that in mind as you're bidding. And again, as you mentioned, who you're dropping for him. And we'll get to some of those disappointing players here in a little bit. Bryce Elder was called up last year in the majors. He had 174 in 2/3 innings. He had a 3.81 ERA, 1.28 WHIP, 17.5% K rate, 8.6% walk rate. It was actually a bit of a surprise, at least to me, that he didn't make the rotation out of camp. But the Braves brought in some veterans, so that's who they decided to go with. Where are you at on Bryce Elder, and as far as adding him and what you're spending on him in fab?
So I know a lot of information about these players, probably more than any person should. But I wasn't aware totally of Bryce Elder's arsenal, right? So I did a little bit of research prior to this podcast, because I was looking at Bryce Elder for my own leagues to see if I wanted to pick him up. And I didn't realize that his stuff is really pretty bad. It's not good. Like, what's he got, an 89 mile per hour fastball? I really didn't realize. Like, I mean, I knew that. I'm sure I knew that at some point last year, but I had forgotten, I guess. Yeah, I mean, he had like 175 innings last year with a 6.6 K per 9 and a 3.3 walk per 9. It was a 4.49 xFIP. He does not. I mean, I don't know. Like the Braves just like they just like somehow find a way to make these guys more valuable than you would think they would be. But if you're just going off of like Elder's actual stuff, it looks like he has 2 quote unquote good pitches, a slider and a change, and then he has the 89 mile per hour aforementioned fastball, which is just, I don't know. I mean, he threw it 50% of the time last year, which is kind of crazy to me, because that doesn't sound good. He does have good command, so I don't know. I mean, he kind of feels like it's actually his name. His last name Elder makes sense, because he kind of has like a profile of like a 25-year-old Jamie Moyer.
Yeah, I mean, it's not impressive from velocity. As you mentioned, he is control based. I happen to like him a little bit, but that's me liking a Braves pitcher and you hating them is pretty par for the course, I think, in regards to how we approach the Braves pitching staff.
I like I like Reynaldo Lopez a lot. I liked Charlie Morton. I mean, you're putting words in my mouth here, Beta.
I mean, in the history of the podcast, the words Braves pitcher and I don't know.
I liked Max Fried before this year. I mean, you're putting a lot on me here, man. It's not all true.
Okay. That's okay. I'll let the commenters, get to this and remind you how many times you said, Braves pitchers are terrible. It's okay. Yeah, I mean it's not really even if he's good, it's really more of a streaming option or a deep league option than somebody that you start all the time and hold on to in a shallow league. It's just not a fantasy friendly profile, even when things are going, really well. Moving on, Alex Canario was called up for the Cubs in AAA. He has 13 games this year, 2 home runs, 10 runs, 7 RBIs. He's hit 269, 377, 481. Last year in AAA, he only had 36 games where he had 8 home runs, 2 stolen bases, and hit 276. He's played 3 games so far. He's batted 9th. Are you interested in Alexander Canario?
If you're really desperate in a 15-team mixed league, I saw in a lot of leagues, I don't know if this is the case in Yahoo. For the first time in a long time, I'm actually not playing in Yahoo this year. But in most leagues, it looks like he has utility-only eligibility, I guess, because last year he must have came up and he only DH'd maybe. So yeah, that's not good. If he only has utility only. But in like a 15-team mixed league, if you're desperate for power, I guess take a chance on him. But he looks like he's going to struggle for average. And also, if he's platooning, he's not really good. I mean, he has power, I guess a little bit of speed, but he's not going to hit for a good average. And he also is kind of like, he looks like he's kind of like the odd man out in their lineup. So, utility only, not really playing. It's kind of hard to recommend him. I mean, an NL only, of course, but in an NL only league, everyone who's in the NL is worthwhile. So that doesn't mean anything. So yeah, maybe in a 15-team mixed league, if you're desperate, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where he kind of fits in. He should have outfield eligibility now in most leagues, I think, or if he doesn't, he should by the end of this week, depending on whether it's 5 or 10 games in your leagues. So, the eligibility is coming. He's played, I think, in the field every game so far. So he'll get there, sooner than later. But you're right. I mean, we were looking at 15 teams. If you need kind of his position and his productivity, which is mostly power with a little bit of maybe he can hit for an average that's okay, but for now that's really all we're looking at. Jack Leiter debuted. He's already been sent back down, but it's a big enough debut. I think we should mention him. He did get lit up in 3 2/3 innings, giving up 7 earned runs with 3 walks and 3 strikeouts before. The Rangers need him if somebody goes down. Where does he fit among starting pitchers? Obviously, it wasn't a great debut, but one outing doesn't end a career.
I honestly, the outing. Okay, so I watched the start, and like he got 3 runs tacked on because Leody Taveras is just like, I didn't realize how terrible of a center fielder he is, or at least he was on that one play.
No, he
he was just like so bad on this one fly ball. I forget now who hit it, but yeah, I mean, he should have caught the ball. Leiter also didn't look good, though. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it completely. He couldn't hit anything. He couldn't hit at his spots at all. He was about 5 inches off the plate on most pitches. His slider was like way off. His stuff looked good, but he has no command at all. Yeah, I mean, I think probably in a dynasty league, I would hold in case, because he does. He does have like really like quote unquote good stuff if he can command it. So in a dynasty league, I'm kind of interested because like if he can command his pitches, like he could be an ace. I just don't think he's anywhere near that point at this, like as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think from just an evaluation perspective, it's not somebody that you're hanging on to, obviously, unless it's a very deep league. But he's going to be an interesting prospect. As you mentioned, the defense did not help him at all. He's not like as much hype as he had coming out of college. He's not a top pitching prospect, really. So I would say, he kind of fits in the flyer streaming category until we see something better from him, even if he, when he gets called up. Would you rather have him or like JP Sears?
For redraft for this year, I'm going Sears.
Okay. So, I think that pretty much gives everybody an idea for redraft where he would fit in. Let's move on to Mitchell Parker. He was called up by the Nats. 2 starts last week versus the Dodgers, or at the Dodgers, and then versus the Astros. He went 12 innings, 2 earned, both to the Dodgers, 12 Ks, no walks. Is Mitchell Parker somebody that you're interested in?
Not really. So I did bid on him a little bit in some of my leagues. I didn't bid heavily. I didn't actually acquire him. I bid pretty flat. I was interested enough to a certain extent, but not aggressively. So I see like his numbers. It looks like he has no command at all, which is odd because he, as you mentioned, like he came up and he pitched really well and he didn't throw any walks in his 12 innings and his 2 starts. So it's like, okay, so maybe he does have command, but then you look at his minor league numbers and you're like, he threw 7 walks in only 10 innings in AAA this like last year. That's awful. I mean, that's really bad. So, if he's going to come up and if he's harnessed his command and he's able to like, avoid the walk issue, then he suddenly becomes kind of interesting for sure. Like, and guys do take step forward. So it's not completely insane to think he could potentially be something, but he has 3 pitches, 92 mile per hour fastball, a little bit of a curve, split finger. The split finger looked really nice. To be honest, he looked good. I watched a bit of his start. He did look good. His numbers don't really match up how good he looked. So, yeah, I don't know. So in a 12-team mixed league, I guess you could take a flyer, but it feels a little bit risky. The Nats aren't going to give many wins. His history says he's not really this good. So, in a 15-team mixed league, yeah, sure, I could see it. I think, I probably bid out of 1,000. I think I bid probably like 20, maybe $20-ish. And he went for 27 in my league. So I just missed him. I wouldn't have minded him in a 15-team mixed league. It's not a bad flyer for 27 out of 1,000. It's funny because leagues are all so different. And actually, in my 12-team mixed league, I think he went for $9, which is out of 100. That is, and that's, I don't know. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, quite honestly, and no one else even bid on him in that league. So someone bid $9, and no one even bid $1. So no one else even bid $1. So yeah, that $9 for a Nats starter. I mean, I don't know, maybe. I don't know, man. It didn't make sense to me, but people have their own likes and dislikes, I guess. And then in other leagues, he went for, let's see, Mitchell Parker. Yeah, he's like in around $30 to $40 in another league. In other leagues. So yeah, I mean, he looks fine. I don't know. He's not really like. It's so early to say. Like, if he blew up in his next start, he's pretty droppable in just about all leagues except for NL only, obviously. But in like in a 15-team mixed league, if he goes out and throws 3 innings and gives up 5 earned and throws 5 walks, it wouldn't shock me. And then he's droppable in 15-team like mixed league. So yeah, he's sort of a one start at a time at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not necessarily buying the very clean start that he's had, which I'm sure, outside of maybe, only nobody really got to have advantage of and have him in the starting lineup. Maybe he found something in the offseason and the walks are completely under control and he's a different pitcher now. But the numbers, and I looked and I tried to find any kind of story I could about him changing something or going to see a pitching coach or something. I couldn't find anything in regards to that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I couldn't find any news about it. He's been a high walk guy all of his career. Last year, he had 54 walks and 113 2/3 at Double-A. The year before that, he had 67 walks and 100 innings at High A. So it's hard for me to believe he's now become like a 0-1 walk a game type of guy. It's just even that transfer. You go from like a bad walk guy to a better walk guy. We're going from like a high walk to low walk is pretty extreme for something to happen like in an off season. Sean Bouchard, he's been up for 3 games so far. 14 games at AAA. He had a home run, a stolen base, and he was hitting .315. He missed most of 2023 with surgery for a ruptured bicep. That does not sound fun. But in 2022, in 69 games at AAA, he had 20 home runs, 12 stolen bases, 61 runs, 56 RBI, hit 300, 404, and 635. Are you interested in Sean Bouchard?
Yes. But Bud Black. That's the for everything to do with the Rockies. It's just like, but Bud Black. I like Bouchard a lot, actually. I think he's probably their like I don't know, 3rd best hitter, maybe 4th. I mean, yeah, it's not. I mean, I'm not saying a ton there. It's not like the Rockies lineup is that good. But yeah, he's better than like that Tagliola guy that they've been trying to make happen at first or whatever. He's better than Montero, who they keep trying. They've given Montero so many chances, and Elihoris Montero. That's easy for me to say. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would have, traded Ryan trying to make sense of the Rockies. Okay, I'm just stop right there. I'm not going to try and make sense of the Rockies. But Bouchard looks like he's a potential 380 on base percentage guy. Like, potentially, I think at least even. I mean, he could be a 400 plus on base percentage guy. So that, I mean, not necessarily for, all leagues aren't necessarily on base percentage leagues, but if he's going to be on base all the time in Coors, that's kind of interesting. So, I mean, he hasn't really, fab for him this past weekend felt pretty flat. Like no one really cared about Bouchard, and maybe because the Rockies have just burned so many people through the years with Bud Black not playing guys. But Bouchard, like, I mean, he went for, in the teens in some leagues out of 1,000, that is, he went for like $1 in like $100 fab leagues. So he went for like nothing. Basically, he was like a free chance to see what he would do. And I don't know, just for Coors games alone, and the Rockies are going to Mexico this weekend, which is like, that's a better launching pad than even Coors. I mean, Bouchard, if nothing else, for this week, I'm interested. But even beyond this week, I think he's probably going to be worthwhile in at least 15 team mixed leagues. Maybe not 12 team yet, but I would be watching him for sure in a 12 team mixed league potentially. And in a 12 team mixed league this week for matchups alone, he seems worthwhile. Like I'm even looking at Blackman, Charlie Blackman for like the Mexico games, because it's like why not play everyone that's going to Mexico, just play everyone.
Yeah, I mean that seemed to work in the past in those games, so don't blame you there. Yeah, I mean it's a terrible lineup, Gray, just a terrible team in general. So
yeah, it's true.
It's just it's kind of gross, but yeah, I mean that should open up opportunity.
I just realized too that they're playing the Astros. I mean, first of all, over under Jordan hits 7 homers this weekend in Mexico. Okay, I'm taking the over on 7, and then the Rockies pitching staff in Mexico. They're going to be like, finally, we have a road game. Oh, no, we're going to Mexico. Goodbye. You thought Montezuma's revenge leads to a lot of runs in Mexico. Wait till you see the Rockies pitching staff.
Yeah, this is a no-go week on any Rockies pitchers. Just get them out. Just pull them out of your lineup. Don't even go. They got the first series in Colorado, and then they're going there. No, thank you.
Yeah, well, no one has Rocky pitchers, so there's that. So that's fine. The only people to have Rockies pitchers are the Rockies. They're the only one. Anyway,
hey, I will say, Ryan Feltner's been good. He's been pretty solid this year until I think his last start was really awful. But up until his last start, he was having a pretty good season. Anyways. Jake Irvin, let's move on to him. He's not really a call-up, but a name that's not necessarily known. So let's go ahead and talk about him, as he has 23 innings this year. He has a 3.13 ERA, 1.00 WHIP, 23% K rate, and a 6.9% walk rate. Last year, in 121 innings in the majors, he was a 4.61 ERA, 1.42 WHIP with an 18.7% K rate and a 10.2% walk rate. I can't really find much that's changed here. He's throwing a cutter on occasion, like 10% or so, but that's about all I can find here, Gray. Do you believe in Jake Irvin?
Yeah, well, see, with Jake Irvin versus whatchamacallit, what's his face? Mitchell Parker. Jake Irvin, this is the podcast where we talk about Rockies pitchers and Nationals pitchers. It's like people are just like fast forwarding, like we went from Anthony Rendon's exercise videos to Nationals pitchers. We're just trying to get people to shut off this podcast. Okay, so Jake Irvin, unlike Mitchell Parker, at least he has command, so that's good. I think actually Jake Irvin, if I had to trust one of these guys, like Jake Irvin's already thrown 120 plus innings in the majors. Last year, it wasn't, the greatest. It wasn't the greatest of seasons, but he was a rookie, and his command looks like he should have really good command. So that's the word, at least, on him. A 60 grade command guy. So if he has good command, if he has like a 2-ish walk rate, 2-ish walk per 9, then if he has a low 4 ERA, it's playable in deeper leagues. It's not a guy I can get interested in 12 team mixed leagues. I mean, he's not that. Like I was saying in my daily my roundup for the weekend, Louis Heel, the Yankees pitcher, he looks incredible. Like he's throwing, I think, a 13 plus K per 9. Like Louis Hill looks awesome. These guys are not that. They're not that, man. They are absolutely not that. They, Jake Irvin looks like he sounds like He sounds like an action hero. He does not pitch like one. He's fine for like a deep league. He feels like an NL only guy mostly, but in a 15-team mixed league, if the matchups are okay and his command is good, then yeah, it's fine for a 15-team mixed league.
All right, Irvin, Parker, and Elder. Rank them for the listeners.
Oh, I'm going to go Elder because the Braves give, potential wins where the Nats aren't even going to give that. But if I were going to rank them, I would say Elder, Irving, Parker.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's move on to a different area. Let's talk about some of the guys who have struggled to start the season. And we're going to say buy low, sell high, or William Wallace at Gray.
Or Sex Panther. Is that what we're doing?
Hey, if you want to do the Anchorman game, we can go back to that.
No. Buy low, sell high, or William Wallace. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Hold.
Okay. See, now I don't remember William Wallace. What is that? Is he a
Braveheart?
rapper?
You don't remember Braveheart?
Oh, I thought that was Biggie's like cousin or something. It's like Christopher Wallace and William Wallace. Like I know
Big W's.
I know Biggie Smalls. I don't know William Wallace. Am I supposed to? Okay. What does that mean, William Wallace?
That means hold. That means hold, Greg.
Okay. Whatever that means. Okay, sure. Okay.
Yeah, and one of us is a writer in Hollywood, and one of us is not.
I don't know.
Which one of us is a writer in Hollywood?
I get it. Well, okay. Well, here's the thing, though, because like Mel Gibson's a total anti-Semite, so I can only watch so many Mel Gibson movies.
But this was way before he went crazy, though. Like,
yeah, it was a while ago.
This is an old movie.
Is that the movie where he mooned everyone? What is that? I don't know. Mel Gibson. Actually, I don't want to go on side stories.
Yeah, let's just move on, Greg.
Buy sell. Wait, buy low, sell high, or Christopher Wallace's cousin, William Wallace.
Right, there you go.
Yes.
Okay. Ronald Acuna Jr. We're going to start here at the top. Last year, I don't know that there was ever a time where he wasn't a top 5 player on the player rater.
I got to let you say. Okay, go ahead. Buy low. Go ahead. No, you say. You talk.
Okay. So all last year, he was top 5. Like you looked any week, he was top 5. If you looked for any given 7 days, he was top 5. Like you could not pull up any version of the player rater at any point in the year where he was not a top 5 player. Well, he's not right now. We did talk about in the preseason how rare it is for a player to be number 1 back-to-back seasons. Not freaking out. This is still Ronald Acuna Jr. He's very good. He's still going to be very good. But you had to re-rank Gray. Is he your number 1 overall? Are you potentially selling him for Mookie or Tatis or Bobby Witt Jr.? Maybe Ellie De La Cruz.
Okay, so all right. I didn't realize my body that big. I gotta sell Mookie Betts to get him. I mean, that's a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I would buy low in theory, I guess. It depends on the trade. I'm not gonna sit here and go through every permeation of every possible trade, but in theory, I'd buy low on Ronald Acuna Jr. I still believe in him. It's like, how can you not after 3 weeks? Come on. It's like ridiculous. It's like, who's a real buy low, sell high, or Christopher Wallace's cousin William? Like Wyatt Langford. Like that's who we should be talking about. Like what's going on with Wyatt Langford, man? He's killing me. And what about Jordan Walker? Or what about like Bryson Stott? Oh my God, these guys are like killing me, man. Okay. Acuna buy low. Continue.
Okay. Well, we talked about Wyatt last week, and the other names, it'd be nice if you give me these names before we're recording the show so I can put them, in the notes to talk about next time, Gray. But hey, it's fine. We'll deal with that as it is. This is still about as early as you've ever looked at the notes. So, we're moving on. Julio Rodriguez, K-rate is up, hard hits down. He does have 6 stolen bases, and the last couple of weeks have definitely made owners feel a little bit better from at least an average standpoint, but that's also with like a 415, 420 BABIP. So where are you at on Julio Rodriguez? I mean, he was, obviously a consensus like top 5 guy. Would you take, some of the guys that we've talked about already, maybe like an Ellie, or if you had Bobby Witt behind him, would you swap those two out now?
No, I would buy low on Julio Rodriguez. I would buy low on any top like 10, 15 guy who's struggling. Aaron Judge. I'd buy low on Aaron Judge. I'd buy low on Corey Seager, Rafael.
All right, so you're not freaking out yet, Gray, but like I said, like you're gonna have to, like, you can't just trade nothing for Julio Rodriguez.
No. The problem is, okay, so the problem is with, I say Julio Rodriguez buy low, and then people are like, okay, like, would you send Charlie Morton? It's like, no, I mean, yes, I would, but it's like, that's not a real trade. So it depends on, like, trades are hard because it's like, it depends on what the other person's willing to do who has Julio Rodriguez. Like, if they have Julio Rodriguez and they really need, like, a closer and a third baseman, you send Austin Riley and Edwin Diaz for Julio Rodriguez? Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you have the saves to back that up and you're able to fill in for Austin Riley with, like, I don't know, another good, decent third baseman, then yeah, sure, I would buy low on Julio Rodriguez. But it depends on the person's team. But in general, I would buy low on Julio Rodriguez. Let's talk about Nolan Jones.
Okay. Moving on. Nolan Jones is not up next, Gray. We're gonna keep going down the list. Thanks for just ruining our order and the way that we're gonna discuss these people. It's okay. We're just gonna go on to Aaron Judge. He has only 3 home runs. For a normal person, that's not bad at this point of the season, but for Aaron Judge, that feels very low. He does have a stolen base, but he's hitting 183. The numbers look a little bit down. The hard hit, average exit velocity, home run, the fly ball, infield fly ball rate is over 20% right now. I mean, is there anything you're concerned about with Aaron Judge?
No, I mean, I guess in theory, maybe he has, he has a lingering injury he's not talking about. But if you were to say, like, he's healthy and he's just struggling, then there's nothing to worry about Aaron Judge. I mean, he's a 40 homer guy in 100 games if he's healthy. So assuming he's healthy, he's going to hit, and maybe in May he hits 20 homers in May and he's back on pace for, 45, 50 homers. I'm not worried about Aaron Judge unless he's injured, which we don't know. So it's just, it's just wild speculation.
All right. I was hoping you would wildly speculate and just say some crazy stuff, Gray. But if you want to go calm and collected and go into this normal minded, then okay, fine. We'll go into it like that. Speaking of, maybe there's an injury, maybe there's not. Corey Seager started the season with a groin injury. He is hitting 272, but only 1 home run. Currently the worst hard hit rate of his career, worst average exit velocity of career. It's not a big sample size and usually not that big of a deal. But, when you get 20 games out of Corey Seager, that's like a fifth of the games you expect from him in the season.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, he has had, like, in 2022, see, Corey Seager's tough because, like, he has one really great season last year, right? And it was in 119 games, so it wasn't even a full year. And then his other years, I mean, he doesn't really have, like, this long history of being great. I mean, he's fine. But last year was a really kind of, like, it felt like a year where, he was sort of showing what he's going to be able to do for, like, the next couple of years. Like, it seemed like the hint of things to come. But if, like, he regresses this year to, I don't know, say 27 homers, 260 average, 2 or 3 steals, as he always does. if he does that, then it's going to look like last year was really the anomaly. So I've never really loved Corey Seager. I think people know this. I think he's a little bit overrated because he doesn't give steals at all. So, if he does what if he does what he did last year, then he's worth his price. But if he has just a little bit of a down year for average, it hits like 270 versus 320, and he has no speed. So if he hits 270 with no speed, and 270 causes him to hit for less runs and RBIs, then yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't be buying low on Corey Seager.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've both been in the non-draft Seager at cost kind of bucket. And it's partially, like you said, it's the inconsistency that bothers me. We know he's talented when healthy, but like the amount of time that he's healthy, just either in games played or you look at the numbers and you're like, oh, the numbers look like he might have not been healthy that, through the whole season. Like he could easily put up like a 2019 year where he hit 19 home runs and hit 272 across 134 games. Like that feels within a realm of possibility, as does, 335. You could get anywhere in that range. And, normally I'm a sucker for guys like Corey Seager where it's talent and you just hoping they stay healthy. But I just cannot get on board with him. I'm a little worried about Corey Seager. If I could move him at draft day price, I would do that right now. Would you? Are you holding on him?
No, I would move him for draft day price for sure. I would probably, and two, I think at this point people should have an idea of like where their team stands. Like if you're like, you obviously are weak on power, then Corey Seager, trading him for like I don't know, like Pete Alonso, that would be draft day price. I would take Alonso if I needed power, and and then there's other guys like, if you needed speed and you could do draft day price and get CJ Abrams. I don't think anyone's doing that anymore because they feel like they've landed CJ Abrams is now a top 5 guy. They think, the people who own CJ Abrams, that is. So I don't know. It depends on what people think, but yeah, I would move for Seager for draft day price if I could.
Oh yeah, I would 1000% move Seager for CJ Abrams, but I had it ranked that way in the pre-draft season. So I no reason to change now based on what we've seen. All right, Gray, we're getting to your guy. We can talk about him now. Nolan Jones.
I realized I kept saying that. And I was like, I don't want to talk about Nolan Jones. He's so awful. He's so terrible. Okay, yeah, no, go ahead. Talk about him.
All right, he has 1 home run, 2 stolen bases, 9 runs, 6 RBIs. He's hitting 148, 225, 259. He has a 37% K rate. All right, where are you at, Gray? I
want to say where my computer's going to be at if he doesn't hit 4 homers this weekend in Mexico. Mexico is going to be like, Mexico is basically like for Corey Seager. It's like, Corey Seager, let's see, you're going to be in Coors for all your home games, so you can't do that badly. It's like, oh, you want to bet? Okay, all right. I see your challenge. You want to prove me wrong, huh? You want to be bad even in Coors? Then how about if we send you to Mexico? You can't be bad in Mexico. And Nolan Jones gonna be like, you want to bet? Let's see. I bet you I can be bad in Mexico. Oh man, Nolan Jones, man. Oh, I was gonna say such a draft day whiff. But yeah, I don't know if we should be saying whiff with Nolan Jones anywhere in the conversation because it's going to give him ideas to strike out even more. Yeah, I mean, he looks like a mess. So here's the positive takeaways on Nolan Jones. Coors has been, people were dressed for winter in Coors this past weekend. So Coors is still very cold. So when it heats up, in theory, Nolan Jones should be able to hit for more power, and it should just be a better experience for him in Coors. So Coors hasn't really been what we think of with Coors yet. Okay, so there's that. On the other hand, there's also, well, not on the other hand, excuse me, on the same hand, there's his BABIP is really low. So Nolan Jones is striking out a lot, but he's also being kind of unlucky, at least versus what his BABIPs have been in his career. Right now, his BABIP's around 235, which is really, it's low for anyone, really, but it's super low for him. In theory, he should be a better average hitter. So is he going to hit higher than 245? I don't know. I don't know. At this point, I would take 245, right? Because he's hitting like 145. So I would take 245, right? The power and the speed, let's say the speed is going to be fine, because like with the pitch clock, he could steal 10 bags in a month and be right at like 30 steal speed, 30 steal pace easily. Like he can get to 30 steals very easily, and really just about anyone can with the pitch clock rule. So I think he's going to be fine with speed. The power may be lower than we anticipated, but like I said, Coors hasn't heated up yet. He's struggling in the worst way. So if assuming he doesn't bottom out, like I say right now is a buy low on Nolan Jones. If you can, like I would buy low on him, but with the realistic expectations of him hitting 20 homers, stealing 30 bags, and hitting 240. So if those expectations sound okay to you, I would buy low on it. I wouldn't buy low thinking you were going to get draft day price, but I would buy low thinking you could get maybe a top 120 overall guy.
All right, so you're not buying him at draft day price. Would you take like Dansby Swanson over him? Like that's like almost double his draft day.
No, I wouldn't. No, I would take Nolan Jones. I would buy low on Nolan Jones with Dansby Swanson.
Okay. Just trying to find like somebody in like an ADP of almost double that maybe fits in that area where you would take him.
Okay. Okay. We got what I think. What do you think about Nolan Jones at this point?
So I would say he's been very unlucky. The K rate looks bad, but despite the K rate, the swinging strike rate is actually down. Hard hit, average exit velocity, ground ball, fly ball, line drive, all in line with last year. The one issue I'm seeing with the batted ball is he has like an 18% infield fly ball rate. You know, you hit fly balls in the infield, it's really hard to get on base at that point. So I think there's just a little bit of unluck, him being a little unlucky. He has a 67% first strike rate, which is awful. And I think that's what's leading to a lot of the bad contact and the strikeouts.
You know what? First strike to me, first strike being that high, that just hearing that and knowing nothing else, even though I do know other things, but hearing that and nothing else, I would say that guy is pressing. And that makes sense. I mean, a guy, if you're immediately in an 0-1 hole, you're pressing. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're going up there, you're swinging at the first garbage pitch, and you're like, and then you work yourself in a hole. Then you're swinging out of the zone, and you're popping the ball up, and you get infield flies. I think he can come out of it. I still have hope for Nolan Jones.
Yeah, I agree. That's what those numbers I was going to point towards. It's just all the numbers seem like there's something to hope for on the back end. So yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a buy low, and I think you can probably get it done with Nolan Jones right now. People are freaking out, so I don't mind that at all. Randy Arozarena, another guy people might be freaking out about. 22 games this year. He has 2 home runs, 4 stolen bases. He's hitting 157, 231, and 241. Fly ball's up. Infield fly ball is up a good amount. Launch angle's up 15.6, which is the highest of his career by like over 4 degrees. He was 11.3 last year. He was 8.8 the year before that. I mean, it's not moving in a great direction here for Randy Arozarena, Gray.
No, I would probably buy low though. It depends on the price, but I wouldn't pay draft day price, but I would buy low on Randy Arozarena if it was, if it's possible. I think he's still he only has to get, 18 more homers, and he could steal 20 bags. Like if he can go 20, 25, 20, 30 and gets his average up to 235, 240, that's fine. I'm fine with that from Randy Arozarena. I mean, change your expectations a little bit, but I think I'm buying low.
All right. Would you take Arozarena or our favorite punching bag in the preseason, Ketel Marte?
I would take Arozarena still, even though probably I'm probably being stubborn, but I would probably take Arozarena still. I have more faith in a guy who has done 3 years of 2020 for 3 years in a row versus Ketel Marte.
Yeah, I mean the good news is even with the bad K rate right now, he has basically the same kind of profile he did in 2021 when he also went 2020. So I don't think it's that big of a concern. I am a little bit worried about just the average being a little bit lower. The numbers aren't great, but it's okay. I think it's fine. I'm a little less bullish on buying low on him than I am on Nolan Jones, though, because the numbers do maybe say he might be turning a different wall, which is he has to losing a little athleticism type of area, unfortunately. Next up is Francisco Lindor. He's hitting 188. He has 2 home runs, 1 stolen base. K rate is the best of his career. Walk rate is in line with his average, for his career. Average exit velocity is the absolute worst of his career currently, though. Where are you at on Lindor? Are you buying low on him, or are you concerned about Lindor?
No, he looks like one of the best buy lows that we've talked about so far. I would absolutely buy low on Lindor. I think he's totally fine. And the fact that his K rate's so far down, it's what's he gonna? He could hit. I could see him hitting 300 for 2 months in a row after coming out of this bad April. I would absolutely buy low on Lindor.
Okay, so not worried that he's maybe hit the age cliff here at 30 and everything's collapsing around him.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, it's always possible that guys lose a little bit of a step and then they it's like the Goldschmidt thing that's going on, or Arenado, both of them together at the same time. They hit the wall of not hitting the ball as hard, and then they lose a step, and those two things combined means their BABIP comes down, and then they end up hitting 40 points lower than their career averages, and that becomes the new norm. That I think is going on with Arenado and Goldschmidt. I would not buy low on those guys. Lindor, I would buy low on him still.
Okay. I will say I don't know that I buy the average maybe as much as you do. I still think, the way Lindor is trending was already kind of with the average going down. So I might not expect his average to be, 270 or even 260. But other than that, I expect him to hit home runs and steal bases. And for what it's worth, splits are a little lazy sometimes. But last year, and what was a great year for him, he hit 218 in April. So it may be one of those things where he's just kind of, getting into the season and finding his stride a little bit. Moving on, Christian Encarnacion-Strand, a guy that I really liked in the preseason, as I liked all the Reds, is struggling. After 19 games, he has 2 home runs. He's hitting 185, 190, 321. He's at a just under 30% K rate with a 1.2% walk rate right now, Gray. Should I be worried about Christian Encarnacion-Strand?
So he's one of those guys where it's like his draft price wasn't really like his draft price was so sort of affordable that like I could see him just being dropped in some leagues. I'm not saying you should do that, but I could see that happening. So his price in trades would be so low, I would probably trade for him because, since he's such a good park, like he could hit, 12, 15 homers in a month. He's that type of guy. I'm the type of guy. Anyway, yeah, I would buy low on Christian Encarnacion-Strand, but only because the price is low. I don't necessarily think like he's going to hit 270 like he did last year. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I think the power is still there, and I think because the price is low, I would buy low.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think I would be buying low as well. Maybe partially because I'm forced to say that as a Christian Encarnacion-Strand owner across many leagues. But yeah, I would agree. I think buying low on him makes sense just because it is a minimal cost and he does have, potentially game-changing power. And walks were never going to be part of his profile, so it's not like that's an unexpected change either. Let's move over to Jesus Luzardo. 26 innings this year. He is a 6.58 ERA, 1.42 WHIP, 24% K rate, and 11.6% walk rate. 2 bad starts versus Atlanta and at New York. Just really hasn't put together a really sparkling start yet. Are you worried about Jesus Luzardo?
So no, not entirely. I don't love that his command has seemed to take a step backwards. So as long as he's got if he can command his pitches, he's going to be an ace. I don't have any concerns that there's an underlying health issue or anything. He looks fine. Velocity looks fine. Everything looks okay. It's just his command is so bad right now. So if his if he can fix his command, I think he can be an ace. Do I think he has the ability to fix his command? Yeah, I think so. I think this is probably just a small sample. It's a 5-start sample. And, at the end of the day, I could see us looking back and being like, wow, he was a great buy low at that point. Because everything looks fine in his peripherals, his velocity and everything. So, yeah, I'm going to say he can fix his command and be fine.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing in the numbers looks like, he's not anything's changed or that he can't be the pitcher he was last year. I don't know that I expected him to put up, low 3s, but mid 3s still feels very, very much within play. I mean, a couple of bad starts at the beginning of the season isn't going to ruin anybody's chances at having a good season overall. Now, we may be approaching it with Blake Snell if he keeps going down this path, though. After 3 starts, he has 11 2/3 innings. He has a 11.57 ERA, 1.97 WHIP, a 20.7% K rate, and 8.6% walk rate. First he's gone in the game is 4 2/3 innings. Obviously, he didn't have a spring training. Where are you at on Blake Snell? Is this a buy low, sell while you can? Or are you just holding on?
So I was out on Blake Snell coming into the year. I think right now is probably a decent buy low opportunity because he is, I think he's essentially doing his spring training right now in the season. I think he's going to be fine. And, if you were fine with Blake Snell, coming into the year, then, I would say you could buy low on him and you're getting a better price than what he was going for in drafts. I depends on, obviously depends on what you're trading for him. But yeah, I think he's usually a lot luckier than his his ERA is usually it's luck based a lot of the times with his BABIP's really low usually. And now it's the reverse. He seems super unlucky. So, I mean, I don't like Blake Snell's profile in general because he walks a bunch of guys. He's not going to go deep into games. He is, last year, I feel like was like when he wins his Cy Youngs, his 2 Cy Young awards, like those years are so like, they were so good, but they're so unreliable to like count on those years because like, I mean, last year he won the Cy Young with a 2.25 ERA and he had a 5 walk per 9. I mean, it's awful. It's really bad. So I don't mind Blake Snell if you can buy him low right now, but you're just getting what I thought he was originally, which is like a somewhat tough pitcher to own in general because of like the walks. So I don't think Blake Snell's changed at all, I guess is what I'm saying. And I wouldn't want to roster him necessarily, but if you can buy low, then sure. I think he's going to be what he always is, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. Would you rather have him or Dylan Cease, who's gotten off to a good start this year?
I think I'd probably go Dylan Cease, even though I don't know. I mean, I don't like either of those guys. Like that's a tough call for me because
that's why I asked you.
Yeah, like I don't because both of them have they have issues with their command, which I'm trying to avoid guys with bad command. So I don't really love either of them, but I'd probably go Cease because at least he's pitching well right this second.
Okay. What about Jose Barrios?
I would take Barrios. I apologized. See, I wrote a letter of apology to Rudy's War Room the past week because like the War Room kept telling me to draft Jose Barrios, and I was like, nah, I don't know.
Shut up, War Room.
Yeah, I gave the War Room a lot of issues with that. I gave the War Room a lot of slack. I was like, you shut up, War Room. And the War Room is right. So I apologize to the War Room for that one. Jose Barrios looks real good. I'm glad I listened to the War Room and blindly drafted Jose Barrios in a lot of leagues because even though I liked Jose Barrios, I didn't realize he was going to be this good.
Yeah, I mean, it really was just like it was the War Room. And then the fact that nobody else wanted Jose Barrios either, like all of that came into play at the same time because he would just sit there, and he'd sit at the top of the war room, and you're like, fine, Rudy, fine, you win, I'm going to take it. All right, moving on. Josh Hader was, by the time draft season was wrapping up, he was one of the last, top closers that was still healthy. Well, after 9 2/3 innings, he's got an 8.38 ERA, a 1.66 WHIP. Houston has 7 wins. He has 2 saves, and it's been awful, Gray.
Yeah, yeah, it has. So looking at his numbers, like his velocity looks a little bit down, but not too bad, and his Ks are up. He's pitched less than 10 innings as of the recording of this. So, it's like real small sample. I think he's going to be fine. If you can buy low on him, I would do it because like he was signed to be the closer. I wouldn't worry, assuming he's healthy, which all his numbers look like are telling me he's healthy. So I would probably buy low on him, depending on the price. I wouldn't pay draft price necessarily, but like if you can send someone who you drafted much later for Josh Hader, or not even much later, but just like a little bit later, sure, I would take Josh Hader.
What about like Evan Phillips?
Yeah, I mean, I would take Evan Phillips over Josh Hader. I would take. See, the thing is, like, if you it's like a bird in the hand, it's like, why am I, trading a closer who's actually been good for a guy who hasn't, just hoping he comes around. I don't know. It wouldn't be what I would do. It seems like it feels like you're galaxy braining a little bit too much if you're trading like Evan Phillips for Josh Hader. I would take Evan Phillips anyway.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I think in the end, even though Evan Phillips may share a few opportunities, he's probably going to have so many more of them that the opportunities kind of weighs even. I mean, Hader has the case that I think that's the biggest reason to go, but I understand and agree to some extent. Like, especially with closers, they're so fickle. Why would you move away from one that's going well? It's just Josh Hader's Josh Hader. So I just want to throw the name out there. All right, great. We got one more name to talk about. It is your boy. You've already mentioned him like 6 times this podcast, I think. Jordan Walker. He has no home runs. He has no stolen bases. He has 4 runs and 4 RBIs. He's hitting 164, 238, 273. 27% K rate is up from 22.4% last year. Is there hope, or are you giving up hope, Gray? Are you giving up hope on Jordan Walker for this year?
So I'm hoping Jordan Walker is traded to another team because the Cardinals can't develop outfielders, right? So if can we get Jordan Walker traded to the Rays? Maybe or
no platooning. I don't want him platooning every day.
Platooning. Okay, can we get him traded to the Dodgers? Okay, so my problem with Jordan Walker, to me, he feels like the Cardinals are giving up on him. So if the Cardinals are giving up on him, then I'm gonna have to give up on him. Unfortunately, I feel like the Cardinals have moved him to like the 8 hole in their lineup. They're platooning him now. Like, if he's not going to be playing every day in the middle of the lineup, I mean, they're killing his confidence, and it's killing my confidence in him. I can't say, buy low on Jordan Walker at this point. In a 15-team mixed league, I actually just moved him to my bench. He's gonna have to work his way back into the lineup on my team. So and that was after 3 weeks of just miserable hitting. I mean, he's just been so bad. I don't even think. And then in a shallower league, like in a 12-team mixed league, there's got to be so many better options to hold on. Like, Jordan Walker was actually dropped in one of my 15-team mixed leagues, which I don't necessarily think you should drop him in a 15-team mixed league yet. Like, he was dropped, and then this week he was dropped last week, and then this week someone bid, I think, $60 to get him back on their team, which I kind of understand. I think it's a little rash dropping him in a 15-team mixed league, but in a 12-team mixed league, there's a lot of options. I don't know. I mean, at best, I would bench him. At least I would bench him and then potentially drop him. In a 10-team mixed league, he's absolutely droppable. And I wouldn't be buying low on him. I think he's at this point, he still looks fine. He should be better, I guess is what I'm saying. But he's struggling, and he's, what are you going to get? At best case scenario, what are you getting? 20 homers, 7 steals, and a 265 average? Okay. I mean, it's fine. But I like him in long term. I think he could be fine. I think he could be better. But at this point, we have to readjust expectations. I think at best case scenario, he's a solid 4th outfielder in a 15-team mixed league and a 5th outfielder in a 12-team mixed league until we see better. Until we see better, I can't imagine he's now, in my mind, he's like a 220 overall type of draft pick. Like, you know, when you're looking at like, you know, the end of your outfield. Unfortunately, until we see something else, because he looks like a mess, and I don't think it's getting better. I don't know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, it's a guy that we've liked, obviously, last couple seasons. Would you rather have him or Kerry Carpenter?
Oh, I would go Kerry Carpenter. It's going to be a struggle to find someone who I wouldn't go over. Yeah, I would go Kerry Carpenter. You know, like the guys who like I would go still like is Wilyer Abreu was picked up in a bunch of my leagues. The Red Sox guy, Red Sox outfielder. Like I would go Walker still over Abreu to give people an idea. Other guys who were picked up in a bunch of my leagues are like Hunter Renfroe. He was picked up. I would go Walker over Hunter Renfroe because we know what Renfroe is going to do. Another guy who was picked up in a bunch of my leagues, like a Max Kepler, who's injured as of right now, but you know he's going to come back and play. But I would still go Walker over Kepler. But yeah, I mean, if someone's playing well right now, I'd probably go them over Walker.
All right. So what you're saying is you're really actually not too worried about cutting Walker in most leagues if you need to do it.
Well, I didn't know. A 15-team league, like I said, I wouldn't drop him in a 15-team league. But in a 12-team league, if there's better options, yes, I would start to look at better options. But I don't think like, you know, Matt Verling is a better option necessarily. Like it depends on who you're looking at. Like, you know, I like I like Blake Perkins right now as a waiver wire pickup, but I don't think long-term Blake Perkins is something. So, you know, not necessarily like dropping Walker for someone like that.
Okay. That makes sense. Let's move on to the bullpens, Gray. Milwaukee, after we talked about them last week, they're still confused, and maybe Joel Payamps is finally moving to the front.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I don't know. That seemed like the consensus from Fab this past weekend from like people in my leagues picking up guys like Payamps. Like I would like, don't get me wrong, I would have picked up Payamps. I would pick him up in any league. Like he seems like he has the lead for saves in Milwaukee, but I mean, we've seen this story before, right? I mean, we've seen this movie before. It's like yeah, like last week. I know that's what it was like. Like people were going for Payamps. They were like, you know, I think someone spent like over $100 in one of my $1,000 Fab leagues. I was like, what? I mean, we saw like Uribe was the closer 3 weeks ago. Then like McGill came back and people were like, oh no, for a little bit there, Elvis Paguero looked like, it's like everyone like sees that Pat Murphy in Milwaukee has no favorite in the 9th inning. I mean, Payamps looks like the favorite right now. By Wednesday of this week, he may not be the favorite anymore.
Yeah, it definitely could happen very quickly. Moving over to my Cubbies, they're in a bit of a mix and match situation too. I mean, Neris seems like maybe he's got closer opportunities. Leiter's being used as wherever they need him. Alzolay started the season well and has just been awful the last few times out. So it's another situation where I don't know if anybody's taking it over.
Yeah, I mean, Alzolay has been a little bit unlucky because like it's not like he's been as bad as like David Bednar, for instance. Like Alzolay, I think his ERA is like just a little bit over 4. It's just he's come into tight games and he's blown them like repeatedly. So that's not so. You know, at the end of the day, like it's all that matters is like saving the game. And if you can't do that, then it's like, especially when you have better guys, or at least comparable guys behind you. So anyway, so Nearest to me looks like, the best bet, then Leiter, then Alizé. But again, by the end of this week, Alizé could have fired like a clean inning or two and be back in the ninth inning. I think at the end of the day, I think Counsell wants Alizé to actually be the closer. So that's good. But, if Nearest gets a save or two and Alizé blows up in the eighth inning of his next game, it's like Nearest's leash is going to get longer, or lighter for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch. We'll see. I mean, I think ultimately Alzolay ends up with the most saves, but I couldn't tell you that for sure at this point. Moving over to the Rockies, I mean, we're just going from one mess to the bigger mess. I mean, maybe Justin Lawrence is figuring it out. Nick Mears is getting in it. Tyler Kinley's currently kicked out because he's terrible. Jake Bird is interesting, is coming into the conversation because Bird is the word, but nobody really deserves this job right now.
No, I would say Justin Lawrence has probably been like, I think he's probably got the best stuff there. But yeah, I mean, I have Justin Lawrence in a few leagues, even in an NL only league, and I have him on my bench in all those leagues. Like I am not starting Justin Lawrence right now in any league, even in NL only league where I could really use saves. I'm not starting Justin Lawrence. So actually, I missed out on a Vulture win on Sunday, so that was nice. but I'm still, it's not worth the aggravation because at any point Justin Lawrence can come in and give up 4 earned in a third of an inning, and I'll be like, do I need the saves that bad? No.
That's pretty much the decision that I've made in any leagues I've loaned Lawrence, unless I'm very desperate, which I am in at least one league. But hey, that is what it is. I think if I'm going with anybody for I have to start a Rockies reliever over a week. Not doing it this week with Colorado and then moving over to Mexico. But I think for now it's Mears. Got to go with Mears. Waivers, Gray. Give us some hitters. I'll give us some streamers and we'll get out of here.
Okay. So Jesse Winker, I think he's leading the majors in on-base percentage. Something like, I think that's the case. I don't know. Whatever the case is, Jesse Winker has been hot for the whole season, basically. Not really doing anything great as far as like speed or power, but he's been getting on base. He's been, producing. Ahmad Rosario has been really good especially for his draft price, but he's been good just in general. He's been hitting third for the Rays for a minute, been great. Wilyer Abreu, who I mentioned earlier, he's been hitting at the top of the Red Sox lineup because everyone in that lineup is hurt or just not playing that well. Kerry Carpenter, you mentioned him earlier. He's been hitting well. He looks good. Blaze Alexander, I think he had a hamstring cramp, but prior to that, he was hitting well. I think he hit a homer this week. And then Tyler Freeman, he's also been hitting. And then Will Brennan has been hot. And I think the Guardians are kind of committed to him because they gave away so many outfielders and they're playing Will Brennan. So you would think that they see something in Will Brennan, and he's actually been hot recently. So yeah, it might be someone to look at for this week.
Yeah, I like those names. Streaming options. Paul Blackburn gets a 2-start at New York, at Baltimore. Javier Assad's been good since he's gotten the rotation spot back versus Houston this week. Jared Jones versus Milwaukee, although that's going to be thrown by the time you listen to this. And then he gets at San Francisco. Tyler Anderson versus Baltimore. Dane Dunning gets Seattle and Cincinnati both at home. Michael Wacha gets Toronto and then at Detroit. Lance Lynn has Arizona, which again will be thrown by the time this comes out, but then goes at the New York Mets. Casey Mize versus Kansas City. Clark Schmidt versus Oakland. John Gray, he came in on relief on Saturday, but I believe he's going to go versus Seattle. We'll see where he falls back in the rotation, but that seems to be where he'll line up. JP France at the Cubs, and Alec Marsh, if you're going deeper, versus Toronto. There are some streaming options for you. As always, you can come out to Razzball and check out the Streaminator. You can find Gray or I on Twitter. I am at RazBdon. Gray is the at Razzball account owner. Find us on youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy. Like, subscribe, comment, wherever you get it. Listen to us, watch us. Until next week, Gray, good luck, and I'll talk to you later, bud.
All right, Lates.